Ha ha ha! So Ruby's going, oh no, and Pierre's like, I'm a monster. And Ruby's going, oh no, and Pierre's like, I'm a monster. And Ruby's going, oh no. Insert lazy Kool-Aid man joke here. Okay, so why doesn't she have her weapon with her at all times? It would be a different story if she was in her casual gear, but she's looking really normal. And there was just some shenanigans with the terrorist organization, so why isn't she armed? And who wants to bet that they don't give an explanation to this? So they really wanted you to know what was about to happen. They foreshadowed this hard, but strap in folks, because this is going to get fun. So Pierre decapitates the poor robot, then everyone reacts as if she just sprained her ankle, then Dr. Wily is sad because Mega Man died, and then all the Grimm come running. Then Ruby is all like, oh no, Penny!
Step into a Slim Jim, oh yeah!
Ignoring the fact that she is a robot and therefore can be rebuilt, probably with little effort. Then that asshole just walks away. Kill her! Are you stupid? And again, no one is around to see him with his leg intact. And then Cinder gets a hold of the feed and then spouts some BS about safety and blah blah blah, Final Fantasy villain blah blah. Alright, let's address what went wrong here. So maybe the average fan of RWBY wasn't smart enough to predict what was going to happen, but I know that after the 3 or 4 times you hinted at this before this episode was enough to hammer this message into my brain. So when you spend 15 seconds showing off the powers we know she's had for 2 seasons, I can't help feel that you're trying a little hard to tell me that someone who can telekinetically move metal fighting a robot might turn out poorly. And just so you know, she just ruined the integrity of her sword. So Pyrrha then decapitates Penny and we have to ask, how did this happen? Now, intelligently, they didn't show the video game life bars during the fight, but that doesn't stop us from assuming that since they almost didn't hit one another, that they both got a lot of aura left. So how did that even hurt her? From what we've seen so far, any aura protects you from any damage. So you can't get hurt until you run out of aura, and I'm pretty sure she has plenty left. But even ignoring that, let's just agree that she has no aura left. How did this mess her up so badly? Last time I checked, robots are not built like insects with exoskeletons and soft insides, and the show even backs this up with Penny's body looking like what you would think a robot would look like. So if she is a robot, why did that mess her up so badly? She weighs a lot more than a human, and her skeleton and whatever constitutes for tendons and muscles have to be able to handle that extra weight, meaning they should be stronger. Now, her getting damaged to the point where she gets exposed as a robot is something I can easily believe, but to be ripped into pieces is asking me to suspend a lot of disbelief. And then Pyrrha freaks out about slicing a dude into multiple pieces, which I'd be willing to give this show more because she is in a pretty bad place, but again, no blood. The look of horror should be replaced with utter confusion because she got sliced in half, and no intestines or blood or anything to cause such a reaction is present. And then the audience reaction is just the best. So this show is telling us that they're horrified, and not showing us that they're horrified. Now I know some people might argue against this, and this is more subjective than I'd like it to be, but if this is anything, it's not horror. We have these 2 girls looking embarrassed, these 3 people are a little too attentive to be horrified, and they look even captivated, and these 3 here looked shocked, and this guy looks ashamed. This is not what people think who just saw a person get ripped into pieces. No, what this looks like is either Pyrrha or Penny having a wardrobe malfunction, and one of their nipples are out and exposed for all to see. But let's just ignore that and pretend that they are in fact horrified. Again, why are they horrified? Millions of people staring at the same scene, and again, no blood, no flesh, just a robot. And you might say that people might not be around robots enough to grasp the situation, but then you have to understand that the people of Vale have been living under occupation for around 6 months with robots just walking around. Which leads me to my next point, because they wouldn't be horrified, but they would definitely be something else. Now, from just what we have seen so far, the plan is to cause the people of Vale to feel negative emotions in order to attract the Grimm, and I'm guessing to overthrow the governments. But you know what else is a negative emotion? Anger.
Here is the path to the dark side.
Stop it, Yoda.
Fear leads to anger.
Stop it, Yoda.
Anger leads to hate.
Stop it.
Hate leads to suffering.
Stop it! The sad thing about this whole RWBY thing is that in the hands of a writer that actually cares about his craft, this could be great. So whether or not the occupation is seen as a negative thing, at the very least, racial tensions have been established between the Faunus and the humans. And even though this has been mostly waved over in Season 2 and 3, it's still probably around. So if you hate your fellow animal person, you're probably going to hate the idea of artificial life. And if that isn't even a factor, everyone should be upset about the fact that they just set up a bunch of people in training against a robot in a tournament that's just a dick-waving competition for the countries, which at the very least is under some false pretense. Why are these guys not upset about this? You get to have the story exactly how you want it, with the following events being exactly the same, and all you had to do was use the context you've created. How lazy or stupid do you have to be in order to miss this opportunity? And I might remind you, an opportunity you rode around. Aw, it's so sad. Now, some might call me heartless, but I'm not going to cry over something that was so cynically designed to make me cry. It doesn't fit the narrative, it doesn't hold any profound effect on me because we haven't spent any meaningful time with the characters for me to feel bad. It's just a scene to make me feel sad. If you want to cry, go watch Dear Zachary, because that is a movie that could easily spend its entire time being cheaply tear-jerky because of its subject matter, and yet it doesn't, and it still makes you cry every time you watch it. And then we have this mess, which really shouldn't have to be described because it's just so transparently stupid, and the fact that people just sit there and watch it is bothersome to say at the least. So rather than go through this and decipher it like I normally would, I'm just going to be condescending to it.
This is not a tragedy.
And they should be aware of that. Stop being redundant.
This was not an accident.
No, it was an accident, because even if we count your stupid plan, you just expected the accident. And just so you know, you blaming all these actions on whoever you're blaming it on is pretty stupid. Now, you can argue that the average human in real life is rather dim-witted, which I'd probably agree with, but they're not that stupid. Someone detonated a bomb during the Super Bowl that killed a bunch of players, and then started this little rant about how the NSA is the cause of all of our problems. The only thing going on in people's minds outside of I'm going to die is, did these assholes just kill a bunch of people and then tell me the government is the source of all of my problems? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying.
This is what happens when you hand over your trust, your safety, your children.
Is this some sort of government is bad in real life and this speech is for that kind of thing? Because RWBY isn't smart enough for that to be taken seriously. And otherwise, the Grimm are a legitimate threat that pretty much requires a military force to fight it. So anyone in the universe watching this right now should be saying that this woman is retarded because she is retarded.
But are, in reality, nothing more than men.
Yeah, they are men, just as you are a woman. What point are you trying to get across? Because if it is trying to convince people that the four maidens exist, you don't do that by saying the government has a lot of power, because your message isn't going to come across the way you want it to.
One nation's attempt at a synthetic army?
Is a single robot really supposed to be the start of a synthetic army? And just so you know, Atlas does have a synthetic army. You know that army that they brought over to add security to this tournament that didn't add any security to this tournament? Which happens to be filled with androids? Yeah, I have no clue what she's getting at, because the thought of a potential synthetic army shouldn't worry you if you know they already have a synthetic army.
What need would Atlas have for a soldier disguised as an innocent little girl? I don't think the Grimm can tell the difference.
What need does the world have with a large number of real girls training to kill the Grimm? That the Grimm can't also tell the difference between. I know this is supposed to force some kind of conflict between the nations, but if they're building robots that are meant for security, is it really all that unbelievable to think they might be trying to develop other technologies revolving around robots? But no, this is a super secret plan to fight the humans. Which, by the way, one of them just murdered their super expensive science project.
First a dismemberment, now this?
The complete accident that happened because no one knew she was a robot. And the only reason it happened was because the rules of Aura were ignored for petty drama. Sure.
Huntsmen and huntresses should carry themselves with honor and mercy. Yet I have witnessed neither.
So the one time in 50 years of history of the game, something like this leg shooting is a sign of all huntsmen everywhere are without honor. A single kid is a dick and shoots a defeated opponent, and apparently all huntsmen everywhere are without honor. That's some good logic for the people to believe.
Perhaps Ospen felt as though defeating Atlas in the tournament would help people forget his colossal failure to protect Vale when the Grimm invaded its streets.
Oh, you mean when his teachers and students protected the people of Vale from the Grimm? Where there had to be thousands of cameras taking thousands of pictures of the huntsmen defending the town? Yeah, sure, it was all Vale acting in bitter revenge.
Or perhaps this was his message to the tyrannical dictator that has occupied an unsuspecting kingdom with armed forces.
Do you really think the average stupid person on the street thinks that Ospen didn't at least allow them to be here? If you're trying to convince me Vale has no sovereignty of its own, then I'm going to have to call bullshit on that, because Vale wouldn't be its own country then.
The leaders of our kingdoms conduct their business with iron gloves.
At this friendly tournament, that has been held for many years, in which the terrorist organization that has been attacking the people of Vale for a while now just so happens to hijack the broadcast for the tournament, in which it blames their actions on the infighting between two allied nations, in a world where terrorist groups is actively attacking civilians and then makes a speech, the civilians are going to automatically side with the people who are fighting the terrorists.
Our kingdoms are at the brink of war.
You know, for all this talk about being on the brink of war, we haven't seen any conflict at all from these nations. The only thing we've seen so far is Atlas and Vale coming together to fight the Grimm and the White Fang. I'm pretty sure the ones they can't trust is you. And this is just ridiculous. Just yesterday, this exact thing happened and you guys were swarmed with Grimm. Even for some reason these assholes got away with watching the matches, which they should have known better. When they saw Penny get ripped into pieces, they should have dropped the TV thing and got into positions because they knew shit was about to go down. The only thing anyone knows about the Grimm is that they are attracted to negativity, and that wouldn't click in your mind that the same event takes place the next day and the results are going to be the same? No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe everyone is so stupid that her little broadcast would convince people to throw off their government to be eaten by the Grimm. That seems about right. So then no hell breaks loose, as a single Grimm attacks a stadium full of people armed to the teeth who have spent a lot of time fighting it, and Ironwood's fleet of 3 ships get taken over. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Then 6 guys and 12 Grimm land on the Colosseum and start attacking. You know that place that has the entire collective of huntsmen in training and many of its teachers just sitting around, who definitely haven't readied their weapons in the last 3 minutes they had before you attacked. And remember, 5 huntsmen and a dog took out 5 times as many Grimm and White Fang. What are you going to do against 400? I want to blow some dude's leg off right now. Yeah, how about you stop standing there and watching the Grimm kill people? They're both just standing there, being sad about the fact that Penny just died, and yet the Grimm are killing people right in front of them. Is having this stupid sad moment with these 3 girls really worth having? Likely everyone watching that has a minute semblance of intelligence is screaming at the screen to stop screwing around and kill the Grimm around you. Is Grimm almost no threat to anyone, or are the writers so stupid and inept to have forgotten their threat?
Blake, what are we going to do?
How about anything? Just do anything. Put out fires, attack the Grimm, help move civilians to a safe place. Anything other than standing around and watching people die because you're a little sad. Why the fuck is Nora holding him back? All 3 of you, go to her and protect her. You are capable of killing that thing easily, remember? What is with all this fake-ass drama? Do you know how good it felt that RWBY jumped in and attacked the Nevermore? 10 solid minutes of people just sitting around and just listening to a mentally retarded person talk about random crap, and then watching as no one did anything to help anyone. And to see RWBY be the protagonist to the show and actually do something. No, scratch that. Anything gave me a shock to my system and made me feel alive again. Is that why none of them had the weapons on them? To have their rocket-propelled lockers kill the bird and then remove any tension this series ever had? And why do people that don't go to this school have rocket-propelled lockers? They have 400 of them just sitting around for 8 years waiting for the tournament to be hosted in their town again? Why do I even care? Oh shit, are people starting to do things again? Well, let's just ignore that pointless drama crap that just happened and pray that this gets better. To any god that will hear it, we will pray. No. Turns out no. No one will do anything. Holy shit, that was pretty cool, or retarded considering the fact that nothing has happened for a while. And then nothing happens again. Good job.
You have 2 choices. Defend your kingdom and your school, or save yourselves.
That's not what they asked you, you idiot. These kids looked up to you because you're the leader of a military, and you might have a plan or something. They were not with the people running away. I think it's safe to assume that they're going to fight. Tell them what to do so they stop standing around.
Execute Order 66.
Okay, so let's get a little recap of what happened in episode 10. Nothing. Nothing happened. I wanted to stop counting the time whenever any of the fighting started, but it wasn't very long until absolutely nothing happened again, so you know what? No. Nothing happened in this episode. Weiss and Blake split up, and the Emperor activates Order 66, which I should remind you is a massive continuity error. The only other thing that happens in this entire 16-minute episode is that RWBY gets on top of a locker and fires herself on the last of Ironwood's ships. That is not a thing in of itself. It is merely the setup of stuff to come. Why do I have 5 pages of stupid shit to say about 2 episodes of a series? But whatever, episode 10 was more pointless drama and then nothing. I wish I could say that this was going to be the worst it was going to be, but we both know better.
Nora, no!
Yeah, this is much worse. Okay, so after 2 whole years of teasing us, we get the reveal for this weapon, and it's just copies of other people's weapons. But you know what the best part about this is? Monty must not have told anyone about the weapon because this is not how it functioned when they first teased it. Unless this was a clever misdirect, then good on you, Monty. Good on you. But I'm also assuming that Monty wouldn't make something that lazy or uncreative, and that is taking into consideration the fact that I didn't even like some of his choices for his weapons. No, I think this is rather stupid and Monty is above this. But maybe I'm wrong, but at this point I'm just trying to find a single positive out of this mess. Haha! I forgot about that. That was probably the dumbest thing I've ever seen in this entire show. And the fact that it even happened is proof of that. But you can't argue with the results, so that gets one thumb up from me. I did this. I am the master of the air. Yeah, so that is the 5th or 6th time this has happened so far. Are people blind and deaf, or are the writers just so bad at making a show that they have to use every not effective trick in the book to at least pretend there is any suspense or any weight at all in any of this? But there isn't. That ship sailed 20 episodes ago. Way to go, John. You had one job. This is so good. This is better than expected. This is amazing. Okay, so we're going to have to talk about that later. And it ended like it started, with a whole lot of nothing. Okay, so after watching the last 2 episodes, I was going to walk you through why there was no emotional impact for me when all the sad was going on. But not anymore. I have something I desperately want to talk about, and I want to get to it as quickly as I can. So why did I not feel anything? It's because I'm a monster. No. It's because I spent most of my life writing and reading and observing writing, and all of that was just to make me a better writer. Did I enjoy myself? Some of the time, but even then there was still a focus on repurposing everything I had consumed to push myself. After a lot of years of doing this, I picked up a few things, especially from the not good category. If you were to pick up a book called How to Add Tension and Suspense to Your Series or Story, you'd find this checklist in the book, and RWBY hit each and every point going down that list. I feel no tension because it's written cynically. I feel no suspense because RWBY is written in such a way as to make me feel certain ways. When what you're supposed to do is tell your story, and if I'm invested into it, I will experience the emotions the characters feel. So with absolutely nothing happening in the episode before, and everything being written in the laziest way possible trying to get me to feel bad for the characters in this episode, there is nothing for me to enjoy here. That is until Blake gets stabbed. So I had the fact that Pyrrha died spoiled for me, and I immediately knew why they had killed her off, which I will explain shortly. And nothing in the last 4 episodes changed that either. But I was excited to see if Blake did as well, but no, a stab to the stomach means she could run about without any setback at all. And then Yang gets her arm cut off, which makes a lot more sense if you've seen the ending, but as it is now, it's just another continuity error. Unless this guy has an anti-aura sword, in which case, you're stupid for thinking that. Then a few continuity errors later, we have the bestest of the death scenes. So you want to know why they killed off Pyrrha? Remember that book they used to write in all that excellent suspense and tension? Yeah, there's a section in that told them to kill off this specific character. Come on, Josh, no book told them that Pyrrha was the one to die. Oh, you'd be wrong about that. Of course, it didn't say her name, but the mathematical formula in the book did point to Pyrrha. So let's discuss killing characters in the narrative, and you'll see where I'm coming from. Now, there are concepts already out there, like protagonist armor, that kind of get the job done, but then they only work situationally, so I don't like to think about them. If you don't know, it's also called plot armor, and it just means that nothing happens to them because they're integral to the plot. What I like to do is break down all the characters down into 4 main groups. Plot necessary characters and plot unnecessary characters, broken into 2 subgroups of main and secondary characters. Unimportant characters and background characters. Now, what I tend to use this for is to gauge whether or not characters are where I want them to be, or whether or not certain characters can fill other roles without screwing up continuity. And that's if I'm not ignoring the system completely. One thing that I've noticed, and that system doesn't even matter, it just helps to visualize what I'm saying, is that more cynical series, and even a few that are not, tend to hit the exact same spot in my chart with who they choose to kill, and there's a good reason why. So if you kill any background character, no one cares about them, so they might not even notice it happened. But you can't kill off main characters because then you have to replace them or just derail the narrative. So you're forced to find this happy medium of killing characters that people really like, but when they die don't really affect the narrative. And you might say, but Josh, that is pretty obvious. And I'd agree to some point, but when you have a way to categorize the characters, you notice again and again they keep killing the same characters in the same categories. A main character that is not plot critical is the perfect character to kill, and guess where Pyrrha is? Now someone might argue saying, but what about the maiden powers? When she didn't get those powers, I knew immediately it was just a false pretense and was just to add to the impact of Pyrrha dying. She fit so perfectly. Then RWBY becomes a Super Saiyan after watching Krillin die, and then solar flares everything to death. And we're home. So there is a lot of stuff I could have talked about that wasn't of high quality, mostly in the animation, like the fact that the shield didn't break Cinder's teeth when it hit her in the face, and the fact that Pyrrha didn't struggle at all before she was killed, and just said some stupid stuff about destiny. But none of that matters, because the guys at Rooster Teeth just hit the hard reset button. This ending conflicts with so much with what was being built up that whether or not it was planned, that button was pressed and hard. My ultimate hope was that Miles and Carrie were fired, and other people were brought in, and they chose this because this is what I would do. So someone has given you a series that has 2.5 seasons worth of backstory to you that will screw up anything you write, so you have to hit the button. And so, who do you get rid of, and what do you change? Pyrrha and Yang are overpowered, and their entire character is one note, so to fix them you'd need to recreate them, so why not just add in other characters that could fill their roles? Blake and Weiss are anthropomorphic wet blankets that do nothing to progress the story and are only there to add in forced drama. So they are gone right away. And what you have left is 4 characters that have distinct personalities, who are balanced, who work together very well, and you don't have to go digging through miles of terrible series in order to keep the characters the same. I'm not saying Miles didn't have a stroke and is now dumber than ever before, because that could easily be a possibility. I'm just saying someone else hitting the hard reset button makes some of the previous few episodes make a little bit more sense. When hitting the history eraser button, does adding magic to an already convoluted energy system matter in the slightest? No, it doesn't. Does cutting the arm off of a person who is invincible just to get her out of the story a big deal? Not really. Does Pyrrha not fighting back before she is shot through the chest with an arrow really constitute a problem when you just need her to die? Actually, yes, that was lazy. I don't know why, but someone has swept away most of the established context, and that has me personally excited for what is going to happen in Season 4. Either these guys are so stupid that they hit the history eraser button and then try to force in some of that history back into the narrative that they just cleared, which would be amazing to see, or they have gotten some people that can actually color within the lines and RWBY becomes a great series, if not good. And frankly, I'm tired of bitching about continuity errors for 2 hours and would welcome with open arms any change to that. Also, calling it right now, Pyrrha isn't permanently dead. She will be brought back to life sometime in the near future. If Clannad has taught me anything, it is that if you make a person cry, you can do whatever the hell you want and revive those characters in the most bullshit way you possibly can, and thousands of people will still call it genius. So for all the stupid people who signed the petition to revive Pyrrha, your job may have been pointless because the people behind RWBY are exactly the kind of people to do that.
And